The place was supposed to be secure, untouchable. But this wasn't politics anymore, it was espionage. The signal they intercepted used a rare triple encryption method, one known to be used only by a few foreign intelligence agencies, groups, that had long seen Ibrahim Traoré as a roadblock to their goals in West Africa. When the intelligence report landed on his desk, President Ibrahim Traoré stayed calm. He read it twice. Then he gave two direct orders. Shut down all communications from the residence and keep everything absolutely secret. No word to the council. No word to my staff, he told his security chief Kula. Not until we know everything. Over the next 48 hours, the trap was quietly set. A covert team moved into the villa, disguised as tech workers. Their forensic search led them to the source, a modified personal tablet. It belonged to Mariam Dio Traoré, the First Lady. Mariam had always been seen as the perfect partner, graceful, well-educated in Europe, admired by the public, and celebrated in the media. But hidden on her tablet was an app disguised as a meditation tool. In reality, it was sending encrypted voice recordings and surveillance data to an unknown server in Morocco. Some recordings even included confidential political meetings and war room discussions. The discovery hit hard, but Traoré didn't lash out. He knew that anger wouldn't solve anything. He needed clarity. Why did she do it? Was she truly a traitor, or was she being used? That night he called in his most trusted ally, Colonel Salif Zongo, head of the Panther intelligence unit. They reviewed every piece of evidence. The server led to a fake company tied to the DGSSE, French intelligence, and the content of the recordings hinted at something even bigger. The Lisbon Accord, a secret plan to destabilize African governments through personal infiltration. This wasn't just betrayal. It was an attack on the core of Traoré's presidency. The question that kept tormenting him was, why Mariam? He thought back to her sudden trips to Rabat the previous year, her appearance at a European charity gala, where she'd met a mysterious cultural advisor from Paris, and recent pressure from foreign embassies pushing him to soften his reforms. Suddenly it all made sense. Now came the hardest decision. Confront her and risk everything, or wait and let her lead them to the entire network. He chose patience, and so Project Veil began. For 2 weeks, Ibrahim acted like nothing had changed. Public events continued, dinners carried on, and he played the part of the loyal husband. But behind the scenes, every message Mariam sent and every meeting she attended was being tracked and studied. Then came the breakthrough, a coded message about a secret handoff planned in 2 days in Ouagadougou's old quarter. The message mentioned a final package. Whatever it was, it could reveal everything, but timing was everything. Move too soon, and the entire network would vanish. Wait too long, and the consequences could be devastating. At dawn, Traoré made his move. Dressed as a plain police officer, he joined the Panther unit's surveillance team. No aides, no security detail, just trust and nerves of steel. As the clock ticked toward the meeting, the fate of the presidency and the truth about Mariam hung in the balance. Would she show up? Would her foreign contacts appear? And most of all, was Ibrahim ready for what came next? Would Ibrahim Traoré's personal world fall apart, or would he turn this betrayal into his greatest weapon? In part 2 of the story, we reach the turning point, where shadows collide with truth. So don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to the voice of Ibrahim Traoré, the only place that reveals what lies beneath the headlines, because sometimes the greatest threats come from those closest to us. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This is the kind of story no one else dares to tell, and today the shadows are closing in. The mission, Simple in theory, nearly impossible in practice. Catch the handoff, identify the foreign agents, protect the presidency. All without tipping off Ibrahim Traoré that she was under watch. The setting, Ouagadougou's old quarter, a maze of winding alleys, street vendors, and old colonial balconies. Perfect cover for spies and secrets. Time, 3 p.m, sharp, market day. The Panther unit blended in silently among shoppers and tourists. Above, a quiet surveillance drone scanned every move. Inside a nearby van, Ibrahim Traoré listened through headphones, eyes locked on the live video feed. Mariam's device was still transmitting. At 2:52 p.m. she appeared, wearing a blue hijab and sunglasses. No bodyguards, no escort, just another face in the crowd. Traoré's heart tightened. Suspecting betrayal was one thing. Watching it happen was another. Still, he stayed calm. "Hold positions," he ordered. "Do not move until a package is exchanged." At 2:57 p.m., the contact arrived. A European man, mid-50s, wearing a linen suit and carrying a satchel. Facial recognition confirmed the worst. Marcel, a DGSSE operative known for orchestrating chaos across Africa. Skilled, dangerous, cold. The exchange happened fast. Under a vendor's canopy, a small black USB drive slipped into Mariam's purse. The final package. But then, another twist. A second signal appeared. A different phone, also linked to the same secret server as Mariam's device. Unknown, unregistered, and heading straight toward the presidential palace. It was a decoy. The plot was deeper than anyone expected. Traoré made the call. "Alpha team, follow the second signal. Beta team, take down Marcel. I'll handle Mariam." Against protocol, against all advice, Ibrahim left the safety of the van. Disguised in street clothes, armed with only a sidearm and his determination, he headed into the market. Time slowed, his heart pounded. He followed Mariam through the crowd, unseen and unheard. At 3:08 p.m., she slipped into a side alley, the planned escape route. He gave the signal. The alley was sealed. No sirens, no noise, just quiet footsteps and cold resolve. Then, face to face, Ibrahim stepped into her path. Mariam stopped. Her eyes widened, not in shock but recognition. She knew it was over. The USB in her purse might as well have been a confession. For a moment, no words, just the silence of a life cracking open. Then she spoke, quiet, bitter. "You were always one step ahead." Ibrahim's voice was calm, controlled. "Not enough, it seems." At that exact moment, Marcel made a break for it. Beta team acted fast. One shot, silenced. He was taken down and arrested. Across town, Alpha team intercepted the second courier, a duplicate USB, a backup plan in case the first one failed. Classic. Spycraft. Built-in redundancies. A full-scale covert attack, political, personal, psychological, now crushed, and Mariam, the woman he once trusted above all. She stood exposed, but Ibrahim didn't seek revenge. Instead, he gave one simple order: secure her, no harm. Because in this war, information meant more than punishment. That night, deep inside a secure room at the intelligence headquarters, the interrogations began, and Marcel, he cracked first. Under intense questioning, Marcel finally gave in. What he revealed was staggering. This wasn't just a rogue mission. It was a joint operation between French intelligence, DGSSE, and a covert EU task force. Their goal: break down President Traoré's inner circle, stir chaos, and trigger early elections that would benefit foreign powers. Mariam's recruitment had started 2 years earlier at a humanitarian conference in Rabat. What began with compliments and attention turned into quiet pressure, blackmail, and eventually betrayal. But the biggest shock came not from her, but from the second courier's package. Inside was a disturbing collection of digital weapons, blackmail files, deepfake videos, and pre-written media stories, all designed to destroy Traore's image if the plan failed. This wasn't just sabotage. This was a silent war, fought not with guns but with lies, pressure, and psychological warfare. Still, Ibrahim Traoré didn't break. In fact, he began to strike back. In Part 4, we follow the aftermath. The political quake, global panic, and the moment Traoré flips the script on those who dared to weaponize his wife. So if you haven't subscribed yet to the voice of Ibrahim Traoré, do it now. Because in today's Africa, truth doesn't just survive betrayal, it crushes it. The day after, the morning after the failed handoff, Ouagadougou was tense. Embassies buzzed behind closed doors. News outlets speculated wildly. Foreign agents scrambled to do damage control. But in the center of it all, President Ibrahim Traoré sat in silence. Not broken, not grieving, focused. He hadn't just uncovered a betrayal. He had uncovered a weapon. By noon, the captured agent Marcel was under full interrogation. The files found in both USB drives revealed the depth of the plot. Codenamed Orchid Fall, it stretched across multiple West African countries. The mission: undermine nationalist governments, block new resource laws, and return economic control to foreign hands. But Traoré wasn't interested in just proving the conspiracy. He wanted to control the narrative. So his team launched a strategic counterattack. They fed a story to the outside world. Marcel had confessed. Mariam was cooperating. And Burkina Faso's intelligence agency was preparing to release a full report, naming names, exposing networks. The bait was perfect. Within 24 hours, encrypted traffic exploded across European communication networks. Panic set in. Cover-ups were rushed. Then came a quiet visit, a low-level European diplomat asking for a private clarification. Traoré refused. Instead, he went live on national TV. No script, no names, just a powerful message. Burkina Faso has endured betrayal, but we stand firm because truth is stronger than manipulation. And to those still trying to own our future, know this: the game is over. Africa will not kneel. The speech hit like lightning. Africa will not kneel trended across the continent. Leaders in Mali, Guinea, and beyond voiced their support. In Paris, London, and Brussels, panic spread. Why? Because Traoré's team had already leaked small but explosive parts of the Orchid Fall plan to trusted journalists. It was a trap. Deny it? Risk exposure as liars? Admit it? Face diplomatic collapse. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Mariam was under round-the-clock surveillance, not as a prisoner, but as a key. Somewhere in her mind lay the final piece. Why? Was she brainwashed, blackmailed, or had she truly believed in what she was doing? Then, during a monitored conversation, the answer came. One name. An EU advisor she'd met in Rabat. No threats, just promises. Safety for her family in Europe, immunity for her brother, tangled in financial scandals, and the illusion that helping them would protect her people from chaos. The real question now: was she a traitor or just a woman who believed the wrong people? Stay tuned, because Traoré isn't finished, and the war for Africa's future is far from over. Subscribe now to The Voice of Ibrahim Traoré. The story they never wanted told is just beginning. What had happened in Burkina Faso was more than betrayal. It was manipulation of the cruelest kind. But Ibrahim Traoré saw it clearly now. The real enemy wasn't the woman he had married. It was the foreign powers who had used her as a weapon against him, so he made his boldest move yet. He authorized the controlled release of a classified diplomatic message delivered directly to the European Union. The message was firm, but fair. Burkina Faso holds undeniable evidence of foreign interference. You have one path forward. Acknowledge what's been done. End your covert efforts to destabilize our government. Build a new relationship, one based on mutual respect, not control. Refuse, and the full truth goes public. At first there was silence. Then, within 3 days, the tone began to shift. Major European news outlets cautiously reported past intelligence missteps. Editorials called for a new approach toward West Africa. Traore had taken control of the story, and the narrative began to change. But as the trap closed on the old networks, one question lingered. What would happen to Mariam? Traore gave his answer, not from anger, but from strength. In a national address, he looked into the camera and spoke plainly to his people and the world. Betrayal wounds. But justice is not vengeance. Let the guilty face truth, not hate. Let Africa rise not in bitterness, but in strength. What we've endured must make us wiser, not weaker. He ordered that Mariam be placed under protective custody, not treated as an enemy, but as a citizen. She would face the law and history openly with dignity, because even when the heart is shattered, the nation must stand whole. Now begins the final reckoning, the betrayal, the operation, the fallout. It had all led to this moment. If you've followed the voice of Ibrahim Traoré, you know. This is not just one man's fight, it is a continental turning point, so if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because the final chapter isn't just about justice, it's about power, and who gets to shape Africa's future. The war behind the curtain, the revelations from Operation Orchid Fall sent shockwaves through power circles, not just in Burkina Faso, but across Europe's intelligence and diplomatic networks. The puppet strings were now exposed. But the game wasn't over. Behind closed doors, diplomats whispered about a reset. Corporations rushed to erase digital trails, and some in the West made one last push to paint Traore as a bitter man driven by revenge. But they were already too late. Because while they schemed, Ibrahim Traoré was thinking bigger. He was writing a new doctrine, not just for Burkina Faso, but for every African nation tired of being controlled. He called it the doctrine of the unbroken heart. At its core was a single belief: no leader can defend a nation if he cannot survive betrayal. No people can ever be free if they're consumed by hatred. So instead of secret trials or quiet deals, Traore made a radical choice: transparency. All the evidence from Orchid Fall, the names, files, recordings, and blackmail plots, would be made public in a national tribunal, a process broadcast live for every citizen to see. Let the people judge. Let truth burn brighter than the lies. The announcement stunned the world, and it wasn't over. Advisors warned him of diplomatic backlash. Some African elites quietly called him reckless, but the people, the miners, the farmers, the students, stood behind him. All across Ouagadougou, murals began to appear. Our land, our truth, our future. And on the morning of the tribunal, the city held its breath. In the grand civic hall, beneath the flag of a proud and sovereign Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré entered, not in uniform, not with bodyguards, but in the simple woven cloth of his people. His face carried no anger, only strength. When Mariam was brought in, veiled, pale, quiet, the room went completely still. Traoré stood, his voice calm, unshaken, his message clear. Yes, betrayal wounds the heart. But if we let pain turn to hate, we betray ourselves. Let this not be remembered as a story of husband and wife. Let it be the story of a nation that chose truth over fear. With that, he ordered the tribunal to be fully open. No secrecy, no backroom justice. The people would see it all, the testimony, the evidence, the verdict. And as the truth came out, something remarkable happened. The conspiracy ran deep. but so did the courage of their leader. In every word, in every decision, Ibrahim Traoré showed the world that real power isn't found in revenge, it's found in restraint, in standing tall even when your heart has been shattered, from Mali to Guinea, from Senegal to Congo, African. Leaders took notice. Messages of support came in. Praise, respect, hope for a new kind of leadership. And in Europe, in the same halls where Orchid Fall was born, panic turned to silence. Traoré had done the unthinkable, turned betrayal into strength and personal loss into a doctrine for an entire continent. A new era begins in the weeks that followed. The doctrine of the unbroken heart spread. Youth movements picked it up. Pan-African forums debated it. The message resonated everywhere. Real sovereignty begins from within. Betrayal doesn't end the fight, it clarifies it. And dignity is not given, it is claimed. And Mariam? The tribunal ruled with fairness and wisdom. Her citizenship remained, but her public role was over. She would face the law, not as an enemy, not in exile, but in full view of the nation, because hiding her would be hiding the lesson. And Ibrahim? He stood before the world, scarred but unbroken. In his closing speech, broadcast to millions, he said, "Let the world know. They tried to use love to break us, but they failed, because our love for this land, for our freedom, is stronger than their fear." So this story doesn't end in bitterness, it ends in resolve. A leader betrayed, a marriage broken, but a people awakened, a future reclaimed. Across Africa, a new truth was taking root. We will not be divided. We will not be bought. We will not kneel. Subscribe to the voice of Ibrahim Traoré, because the next battles will be even harder. And if you believe in an Africa that stands tall, speaks with one voice and writes its own future, then stay with us. This isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Until next time, stand strong, stand free.